Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Hong Kong content review, diving more into War Kar-leung and Shaw Brothers films, this time diving with a highly recommended and highly suggested film from the comments after reviewing the 36 Chambers of Shaolin and the 8th Diagram Pole Fighter. This is a very highly recommended film, a part of the Shawscope Vol.1 Volume 1 box set, and I have access and I watched it recently last night. So this is for Dirty Ho, a very appropriate time, a spin and a bit of a kind of a notarized kind of marketing deliberately on the Dirty Harry that was coming out roughly around the same time, I believe, and just a bit of a play on that, even though it has nothing to do with each other. It was just a bit of a marketing kind of gimmick. I've been on like kind of a long Kar-leung kind of renaissance recently. I've got a lot of access to his films on the Shaw Brothers box sets and on the 80 editions. So I'm going to see how many I can get through, see how many I can check out, and give a bit more of a library, a bit of an understanding of this director and his kind of sense of filmography, his fighting choreography style, his comedy, and his recurring kind of bringing back a lot of the kind of the same kind of cast, including Gordon Liu, which is one of our main characters in this film, released in 1979. This is 1 year after the 36 Chambers of Shaolin, so this is coming straight hot from that kind of massive international martial arts film, going straight into something quite different and something that I wasn't really expecting to see this caliber so early on, pre-Jackie Chan. Let's dive into Dirty Ho. Dirty Ho was released in 1979, as mentioned, and this features two powerhouse performances, and practically the film lives and dies on your enjoyment of these two characters, of these two performances by Gordon Liu, fresh off massive international success, and Wang Yu, which is the supporting character, or second billing character, I would say, just as much screen time as Gordon Liu's character in the film. And essentially the idea of the story, putting it down so simply, is that Gordon Liu's character is a high dynasty prince. He is someone who is kind of like, sneaked out of the Forbidden City from Beijing and basically gone to explore the riches and the lands of, basically China, essentially. He likes kind of wine tasting, paintings. He likes kind of, antiques, and someone who is, money's no object, essentially, to him. However, he's amused, he's kind of curious about various kind of scenarios that gets involved with. So he has kind of riches and jewels kind of thing. He comes and gets himself up as a jewel kind of dealer, kind of essentially kind of puts sort of persona to low identity, and he's going around various places, and he's a very kind of nice, kind of very kind of inquisitive, very kind of curious person that basically kind of has this kind of interesting kind of relationship with Wang Yu's character, which is kind of this local thief, someone who is at the start of the film having this kind of bit back and forth kind of, test of kind of, I can afford more than you kind of attitude, testing with gold bars, and then eventually with kind of, city credit, royal credit. And they basically have this kind of bit of rivalry. However, the rivalry is purely down to Wang Yu's character more than Gordon Liu. Gordon Liu is more fascinated and curious by how much back and forth he's willing to go. And he has the kind of the seal kind of thing, which he shows in the kind of like the local constables, the kind of police force. And basically kind of every time he gets into a bit of a scrap with the One News character, gets into a bit of a scrap with Gordon Liu, he kind of like make sure he gets off fine. Hey, make sure he's a good person, let him go. He's just on the bit of the misguided in his kind of direction. So he's very much a very arrogant, very kind of selfish person. He's a thief, someone who's just kind of been down on his luck. And he's getting very pissed off and very frustrated with this so-called jewel dealer, which he doesn't catch on until much later on, who he actually is and what his skill sets are. Gordon Liu is absolutely having a blast in this film. This is such a different departure from the previous roles that I've seen him in. He's playing very much the same type of role quite frequently that I've seen up to this point. And him to do something like this, where the comedy, that's right, the comedy is so unique, so different. This is pre-Jackie Chan. This is something that Jackie Chan would be doing in Young Master, in a lot of these kind of staple movies. This is some of the level of comedy in this is absolutely phenomenal. It's really, really funny, and it's very clever. You get some great action set moments without actually being action moments. And these are kind of what's called stealth kung fu or stealth martial arts. The idea of not playing your hand, but almost we're going to test your skill set. So the various kind of scenarios where, he's doing like a wine tasting bit, he's doing like looking at antiques, and they're both trying to like hurt him or kill him, and he's kind of counteracting their moves while still retaining their kind of mannerisms, their manner, and basically playing coy, essentially. Like, I know you're trying to kill me, but I'm going to play upon the scenario. I'm not really going to call the situation for what it is. It's very much a scenario-based kind of comedy, and it works really, really well. And it's kind of dark in some places in terms of some of the actions, because Gordon Liu actually just killed a couple of people in this kind of process. But, you know, stone cold cool, very funny, very kind of charming. I love his little mustache he keeps on stroking all the time. And he basically takes Wang Gung's character as a bit of a disciple, someone who is, you know, he sees him as a thief, a bit, not really as an enemy, but more of like an opportunity to kind of like, hey, this character keeps on kind of going back and forth, having encounters with. I'm curious to see what he would do, you know, through the various kind of scenarios they do get involved with during the portion of the film. Basically wants him to be a disciple and kind of, you know, put him on the straight and narrow. This comes about in false pretenses with basically poisoning him during an encounter, which was very, very funny, when he's saying this, oh, this woman's my bodyguard, and doing this kind of martial arts kind of scene where he's basically using the woman to basically counteract the moves and use the different weaponry and stuff. It's very funny, it's very enjoyable kind of sequence, and as the film goes along, you know, the stakes start to get higher. You find out who's trying to assassinate him, and, you know, some people know his identity. So you got this idea of the emperor is going to announce his kind of successor in the next kind of, you know, couple of weeks, essentially, and you find out who's behind the assassination, who's trying to stop him from basically being potentially the next emperor. This character, Gordon Liu, doesn't want to be the emperor. He just wants to enjoy life. He likes the finer things, and he's very relaxed and chill, but also he's got very high skill sets and willing to use them to a good degree. And this comes into the later act of the film, where he's kind of training up, typical training kind of montage, and then you get this glorious traditional fight sequence between two of them teaming up, with Gordon Liu being injured, and them using this kind of staff pole kind of thing, and basically kind of taunting and using some very kind of excellent cinematography, and through this amazing kind of third act, with the cinematography and the editing being so minuscule, you get these extraordinary fight sequences. They just go on for quite some time with barely any cuts. Very impressive, you know, definitely the kind of takes like, hey, you got three people essentially dancing with each other here, and weaponry is involved, and one slip up, that's the take ruined, essentially. And they're doing these really extraordinary kind of fight sequences, which is very fun, a lot of high energy. It's very funny at the same time. Just the film works. I can see this film not working for some people. If you're not liking the comedy, if you're not liking the performances, or if you're not buying these two characters in front of you, the film won't work. It's essentially that. The film lives and breathes and dies on these two characters and your enjoyment of that journey, because it doesn't have traditional bad guys. It doesn't have the traditional kind of structure that you would usually find within a Shaw Brothers films or a Hong Kong movie like that time. And that's probably one of the reasons why I like this film, because it plays against expectations, it plays against stereotypes and traditional kind of, you know, comedy, where I've seen, you know, with the return of the 36 Chamber movies being more sillier, slapstick, you know, buck teeth, just a bit more kind of, you know, out there kind of comedy, which doesn't quite work ultimately for an hour and a half movie. This is very charming, very fun. The only complaint that I would say about the film is I actually would like an extra 5 minutes of the film. I would like to assume what would have happened at the end of that film and just see what the scenes would have been, you know, to kind of next, and essentially. But I suppose that would have set up maybe potentially a sequel or a continuation of some kind. This is meant to be more of a kind of a one-off kind of, hey, the prince is up to no good. And he has to go back to what he's doing, you know, usually, essentially. But apart from that, the film is solid. Definitely a highlight film for me for sure. Definitely up there with the greatest of our directors' kind of filmography. Love to know your thoughts and opinions on Dirty Ho, guys. Please comment down below. Love to know your thoughts and opinions. So, meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews. Signing out.